2023. In 2022, Felix was a top 10 finalist for the Africa Education Medal, an honor bestowed by T4 Education, HP, Intel, and Microsoft. So his innovative approach to STEM education earned him a gold award at the 2019 International STEM Curriculum Competition held in San Francisco and Shanghai in China. Academically, Felix holds a Bachelor in Science in Computer Engineering and a postgraduate diploma in education from Kenyatta University. Currently, he's pursuing a master's in ICT integration at JKUAT, and further solidifying his expertise in educational technology. We are very much happy and proud to have you in our panel, Felix. So, ladies and gentlemen, the theme for this session on International Teachers' Day is Leadership for Learning. So, to begin with, we have a number of themes, and the first theme that I want to put forward is in relation to a very important issue in international education in general, governance and accountability in schools. So I will begin with you, Christine, to give us some context to try and help us have a background of why governance in school matters. Christine, please take forward.
All right, good evening, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, depending on which part of the country you're following or of the world you're following from. As you've heard, my name is Christine. I just want us to talk about governance and leadership in school. Now, these are two bodies first to start off that can never work independently. Wherever you have a governing body, and in this situation, we're talking about maybe the board of governors, you can never separate them from the main leadership or the main administration in a school. So some of the key things that I know must work in tandem is that for them to have a successful school, we must foster a supportive environment that encourages a lot of innovation. How does this help? It helps to sustain and maintain. There is a lot of accountability. But how do we do that? How do we ensure there's accountability from both sides? One, most important thing, and one of the things that I constantly practice, is ensuring that personally as a leader, I have the same visions and mission that the school has. And so when I work as a leader with the same vision as a mission, it makes it easier for me to work together with the governing body. Remember, the governing body is right at the top. And the governing body being right at the top, they're the ones who come up with the vision, they come up with the mission. And at times as leaders, some of us may move from one institution to another institution. But in all these institutions, you'll always find there is something that is very similar with the visions and missions. And so if the two groups, and in this case, the two groups are the governing bodies and the leaders, if we are all in tandem, we have a similar vision, we have similar goals, and we're working together and we're pushing towards what it is that the school desires, we will definitely get to our end game. Number two, one of the things that I would highly encourage is communication. I mean, we cannot just manage schools and fail to communicate and inform the bigger governing bodies of what is happening in the schools. And by communication, I simply mean every communication, the good side, the bad side, what works, what does not work. So in bottom line, I call it open and transparent communication. At times you'll have to sit with the board and tell them very hard things. I know one of the hardest things that you'll have to sit and tell the board is numbers are dwindling. Numbers are not going up, number of pupils. These are conversations that you need to sit openly and have and go deeper and find out where could the problem be. And so where in an education institution, where there is open and transparent communication, things tend to move and work with a lot of ease. I'd rather a situation where people communicate instead of staying quiet and noticing that 1 year down the line, things have not been working out. There are so many cracks visible. And by the time maybe you're sitting to check what could be the problem, you have realized, or you realize that maybe these are things that you could have solved right at the beginning, maybe of an academic year. So any communication that you have, I highly encourage all communication, positive communication, negative communication. I'll also give another scenario. At times it could be a high turnover of teachers. No one likes that. But we also have to sit down and leaders at the board and ask ourselves, why do we have a high turnover of teachers? Could it be the problem is the leadership? Could it be the problem is the parents? Could it be the students maybe are a problem? Or maybe the teachers are being bullied? Could it be maybe salaries are not good enough? Could it be a toxic environment? Those are questions that you have to ask yourself. Number 3, of most importance, as a board and as leaders, we constantly must do regular evaluation and regular reflection. This is where now we have to pause and look back. Again, count your wins, count your losses, and be real with each other. Ensure that you have at all times certain rubrics that will evaluate performance. And that is where things like appraisals for us leaders, appraisals for our teachers down there, appraisals for all members of staff come in handy, because it is from this evaluation that you're able to get feedback to prepare for the next academic year. We're also able to identify early in advance, could there be problems somewhere? Could there be inefficiencies in some of our teaching staff? So these are really important. And note, even the governing body itself has their own set of rubrics to evaluate themselves. They sit at their own time and they ask themselves very hard questions. As a board, are we steering this ship in the right direction? Or maybe, is there something that we are doing that is not right, that is steering this ship in the wrong direction? Number 4, empowerment and autonomy. Very, very important. It's important for anyone who works in an institution to understand clearly what are their roles, what are their responsibilities, how far do their roles go, how far or at what point do their roles end. Once this has been developed in any institution, the school leadership and the board finds it easier to deliver the goals that they would want to deliver for any school. So it's highly encouraged that a lot of innovation should happen when we're having all this empowerment and all these autonomous decisions. Again, building relationships. In any learning institution, you have to create time to build relationships. At times, the board will pause and call all the leaders to have something as simple as a potluck. I don't know how many of you have ever tried it. And in this potluck, you're not going to talk about the issues, the nitty-gritties of the school. It's just getting to know each other. Just get to understand who is your chair, for example, the chair of the board. Get to understand who your managing directors are. Get to understand who are the owners of a school. For example, if it belongs to a community, who are the community members who play or make those hard decisions for the school. Have things like simple dinners. You could go out, the whole group of leadership from the governing body to the leaders, go out and have a dinner and build relationships that go beyond the normal interactions of the runnings of an institution. Finally, community engagement. Is it only about the board? Is it only about the leadership? What role do the teachers play? What role do the students play? What role do the parents play in decision making? Any institution that wants to be steered in the right direction must ensure there is a lot of community engagement. How do you do that? At times you could do surveys, you could send out questionnaires, feedback to get feedback from the students. At times you could get feedback from the learners. At times you could get feedback from the parents. I know at times it would be a challenge for us to get, as leaders, to get feedback from teachers, but believe me, that is one of the healthiest places to get feedback, candid feedback, when it comes to how the school is being managed, because it is these teachers who clearly understand the runnings of this learning institution. So, Mr. Nicodemus, over to you. I think I have just finished my first question. Most important, those key aspects, 6 of them, they're the most important things when it comes to working together between the governing bodies and the leadership of any school. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine, for that wealth of knowledge with respect to key strategies for, ensuring that there's strategic cooperation and collaboration between the school leadership and the governing body. Members, please keep your questions, and we'll look at your questions, and we get ready for the end of the session. We'll have a QA. Now, Felix, in 3 minutes. Now, one of the most critical issues when it comes to school management relates to financial responsibility, or the fiduciary responsibility. Now, one of the things at the global level, we have the Sustainable Development Goals. And to us educators, the most important SDG is SDG number 4, which relates to ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and to promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Now, clearly here, for quality education to be anything tangible and worth achieving, there has to be enormous resource allocation. And resource allocation means there's a lot of investment, especially financial investment, that leaders have to dig deep into their pockets and find ways of mobilizing resources to ensure that every student can access quality education. So, Felix, here is a question for you. So how can, what financial decisions have the greatest impact on student learning, and how can school leaders ensure equitable resource allocation to support diverse learners? Felix.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Daktari. Thank you, Christine, for that elaborate discussion and clarity with regards to governance and school boards. Indeed, everything about education stems from the place of the governance, the governing boards, to the school leadership itself, to what is happening in our classrooms. And so, Dr. Muhati, to just lean into what you are talking about with regards to fiduciary. Usually when we're looking at school leadership, there are 3 main things, and especially for boards and school leadership in terms of the school heads, we're looking at strategic alignment, fiduciary, which is financial and resource, allocation, and finally, of course, the generative thinking that drives us to professional development. Professional development among teachers to support what is happening in the classroom. And so just in line with this year's World Teachers Day, valuing teachers' voices towards a new social contract for education, I feel so privileged tonight to be part of the group that the part of the teachers tonight that are looking into that. And while Christine is working very closely with us to bring in the aspect of the school leadership and governance, I will try to see if I can produce or project the voice of the teacher in this discussion. And I just want to say at the beginning that well done, educators, and congratulations for this far. We still need 90 million teachers. Still need 90 million teachers within the continent that are going to take us and take our continent to the next level. And I'm very sure that each and every one of you is doing their best to get that done. But that cannot be done without a clear vision, without a clear support system from the school leadership. And so the school leadership plays a big role in looking into how we invest in the teacher capacity development, looking into what modern teaching tools are allocated or provided, such as even platforms like digital platforms for teaching, learning, and assessment, but also aspects that are leading to resource allocation for the learning activities, including what Christine does to us as a head teacher at Shadell International School, giving us the necessary or the requisite resources that we need for the lessons to be delivered. The books, ensuring the class size, the numbers, as per the required. In as much as the governing board is looking at how many students are in a class, for us, we look at even the room size of the class to ensure that it is effective. I think someone needs to mute their mic. And that's Julius. Thank you, Julius. Thank you very much for muting your mic. Yes, I was looking into resource allocation, and I was just speaking from Christine, who is the head of Shadell International School, and saying the way she allocates resources based on what budget has been allocated is critical to what happens in the classroom. And so as I elevate the voice of the teacher, we are saying the first thing that we need to happen is, first of all, as a school, we need to hear what budget is allocated for teacher development, what the resources are allocated for matters to do with the classroom size, the numbers that are in our class, because that affects what is going to happen when it comes to differentiated instruction, scaffolding, personalized learning tools that are allocated to the lesson activities, and so forth. And so it is important that at the highest level, the heads of schools, the deputies, the department heads, whenever they are given opportunities to, locate resources, they look into what is happening with the teacher. The second thing that I would like to talk about within this is equity. We want to ensure that it's not just a focus on the three main subjects. And Christine will agree with me and many school leaders that many resources are allocated to specific subjects, mathematics, science, and English, mostly actually for international schools. But you'll find subjects like religious studies, subjects like geography, subjects like computing and computer science will not get a lot of resources with this regard. And case in point is what is happening in the government. For example, you'll find the presidential working party in Kenya, once put together by President Ruto in 2022, looked into how they can allocate the available resources within the context of our Kenyan needs. And so at the end of the day, they removed subjects like computer science, which was where my heart sits. And then they put in what they call the technical course, which is a combination that nobody can teach. Teachers, of course, being teachers, and well-done teachers in Kenya and teachers across the continent. We have been able to deliver this nevertheless. So whether we are trained or not, whether the support is coming through the financial allocation, whether the salaries are paid in good time or at the right amounts, we still have needs in our continent, in our country. And my call and clarion call to the government, to the leaders, to the school leaders, is that you bring the voice of every teacher to the discussion, because this will inform what it is going to be happening in the classrooms. And lastly, as I speak with regards to budget, if there are any budget that are going to be looked into, the teacher voice must be heard, because like Christine said, the teacher voice is the street bureaucrat. The teacher voice is the main one in the delivery of learning in the classroom. So whether teacher salaries are going to be discussed, whether it is buying of tools, whether it is buying of computers, the teacher must be heard. Transparent budgeting involves teachers and the community so that they can provide their input to ensure there is trust, and also the resources that are bought are maximally, I don't know if that is the right word, maximally used. Thank you very much. Back to you, Daktari.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Felix. Thank you very much, Felix. All these components put together, at the receiving end, we have the main client, and in this case, our client is the student. So one of the things, as you speak about resources and how they're supposed to be deployed, and how all this is supposed to, to be directed towards ensuring that we transform the classroom. But at the same time, we also have to look at the how, the process of it. And one of the things that we want to discuss here, and Christian, you better be ready, because I want you to talk about generative leadership, because speaking from experience point of view, where we, of course, at conceptual level, generative leadership would, of course, involve issues such as empowerment and the creation of sort of a very positive school environment, a school culture that promotes innovation, teamwork, collaboration, and of course, all that come with it. So what is the promise of generative leadership, and how can we utilize that as a resource to make sure that it also transforms learning, really? Because at the end of the day, we want to see learning, real learning happening in theory, both in theory and in practice. Kristen.
Thank you, Nicodemus. Just to respond to your question on generative leadership, allow me to say that last year I was in a training, a Kenya Association of International Schools training. And one of the things we were talking about was stress and burnout. And the theme was who cares for the carer? It was quite an interesting theme because it is us, the leaders, who are the carers, right? I bet all of you agree with us. or with me. And so one of the things that I know generative leadership should be very keen on is, one, ensuring the environment is so conducive for the teacher, for the learner, for the parents, and any other stakeholder within that learning institution. So what are some of the things that we can do just to foster this culture of innovation and creativity in schools? One of them is being spontaneous. Like, I think I have been visited on several occasions by one of them being Mr. Felix in the office. And we have agreed on how we are going to do things at the beginning of the term. But after trying it out for a few weeks, the teachers will feel, Christine, this timetable is not working for us. So as a leader, what do I do? Do I remain rigid? No, I should be flexible enough. I should be spontaneous enough to listen to my team or the team and be able to make better decisions, of course, informed by where they're coming from, and just agree to adapt to the change. I know something else that we're also very rigid about as human beings is adapting to change. So we need to constantly be spontaneous. We need to constantly be adaptable to change if we want to take our schools to the level that we want them to be at. At the same time, as leaders, we need to be able to embrace at all times and be very positive of innovation. There are teachers who come up with brilliant ideas, very beautiful ideas of how they can make teaching and learning experiences so interesting. And at times, as an individual being a leader, I might downplay an idea that a teacher has brought, but the call is upon me as a leader to just think deeply and think through and put myself in that teacher's shoes and be able to understand where they're coming from and see the end game. The bigger picture for me usually here is, what is the end game? Will objectives have been met in the way that it is expected to be met? Are the visions and the missions of the school also being followed while we are trying to ensure we are fostering this culture of innovation and creativity? Number 3, it's to always have everyone included in decision making. Again, I know this is related to the first question that Mr. Nicodemus had asked me, but again, it's very important to ensure, if you want to keep a culture that is really good, if you want to take care of innovation and creativity in your school, ensure there's a culture where everyone is included in decision making. The teachers, sorry, the parents, the students, and also look for feedback as a leader. Go out there and ask parents. We've introduced this to the school. How is it working? How is it benefiting your child? How is it benefiting your daughter? Whenever there is change, whenever there is any little change that is implemented in a school, don't keep quiet as a leader. Go out there and ask the children, how is this affecting you? Have you changed the menu? How is this affecting the children? Have you changed the timetable? How is this affecting the children? Have you changed the normal run-ins of the day? Have you moved a swimming lesson from this day to this day? How is this affecting the children? How is it affecting the teachers on a day-to-day basis? Something else that we need to encourage is collaboration of all the teachers, all the staffs, and all the students in problem solving. Some problems that as leaders we face, I've found that when we listen in, and by listening in, I mean not going in with a solution when you're meeting your team of teachers, having maybe a solution at the back of your mind, but listening to the different views that they bring into the house and weighing the options and making a decision to see which is the best solution that works for everyone. Again, always important, as Mr. Nicodemus said, promote collaboration, empower your staff. How do you empower your staff? I don't know how many schools do staff developments, but these are key. If a term goes by and you have not sat through a training or a workshop as teachers to just improve you in one area or the other, it might be as simple as first aid. Some of us may have been teachers for a long time and you've never sat through a CPD of first aid. Something that is very basic in every school, especially now that we keep talking about safeguarding. If you've not had that opportunity, leaders who are out there listening to me, it's important to just sit and pause. And as you plan your annual calendar, ensure there is training that is scheduled for members of staff. I know at the moment we have a dyslexia training that was happening today. I don't know how many of us participated in it, but as a school, we took part in that because we are living in the current times where we know we have children who have learning difficulties and learning disabilities. So it's really important for us to ensure that we are taking care of the needs of all these children. And I think, Mr. Nicodemus, I have answered your question fully, unless you think otherwise.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
You have really tackled it really well, and we are really gaining and gleaning a lot of insights from you. Indeed, of course, my biggest takeaway from your speech, Christine, is you've highlighted the importance of the school leadership to bring people together in establishing collegial relationships amongst the members of the team. Of course, this is important because it establishes what we call a situation, an atmosphere of trust. Because it is only through trust that we're able to work together and generate solutions that we are able to solve for the benefit of the students. Because at the receiving end, and I'll say this time and again, we have our students. And if there are any tensions within our community of educators, then at the end of the day, it is going to hurt our practice. And the student learning is also going to be affected badly. So one important thing again that we've mentioned, Christine, is the importance of establishing professional learning communities within the school, and of course even calling upon teachers to have this habit of upskilling, going for professional development sessions, signing up for professional learning sessions. There's so many. And of course, school leaders, it is a very important practice to have within your policy and your budget to ensure that at least you dedicate some resources for the sake of, just supporting teachers to learn. Some of this, will have budgetary implications, but there are others which are also free, which you could also call upon teachers to participate. And, at the end of the day, the belief is that learners will enjoy and learning will become more meaningful as opposed to just being something that's a tick box exercise. Okay, I'd want us to focus on another very important aspect of school leadership, and this relates to talent acquisition and teacher retention. Because when you're thinking about having an effective team, we think about recruiting talent, recruiting people who are skilled, recruiting people who are even teachable and coachable. And this is a question I want to throw to you, Felix. Could you please speak a little about talent acquisition and teacher retention issues surrounding that thematic strand? Felix.
Thank you, Mohati. Thank you, Christine, for sharing those amazing insights. I'd like to weigh into the matter of talent acquisition and retention. And I want to give my own story. I started teaching a few years ago. I'm not that old in the profession, but I have a heart for it. I remember President Donald Trump once said, sometimes we don't want it's not the experience that we want. It is good experience that we want. And that resonated very well with me. And I told myself, whenever I'll be, the day I'll become a teacher, I will always remind myself that, that it doesn't matter how many years I've been teaching. What I need is building the best practices, or the better practices, as some of us call them, as I navigate the terrain. But looking into school leadership and projecting the voice of the teachers, indeed, you have worked in a school where you only took 1 year or 2 months or 3 months. I've had colleagues who have worked for 1 week and then they lost their job. And the question has always been, what is making a teacher last 25 years in an organization while another can last only 2 months or 2 years? And first of all, from the heart of a teacher, I think it's what the teacher is also going through. It is what the teacher is going through as a person, but also what can the school leadership do about what I'm talking about. It's also about what I'm talking about that because Christine said, who is taking care of the carers? Every time we are being told, oh, attend our well-being session, go to the We need a budget for that, by the way, for well-being for the teachers. Having said that, having said that, what can the school leadership do to make the retention or even acquisition look like something that everyone wants to be part of? You know, I have seen teachers from this community, the Educators Network and the Educators Collaborative and the STEAMLabs communities. And all these are communities that we are bringing together, you know, moving very quickly. And I'm not saying they are going to Germany. If you know, you know. They are going to US. They are going to this other place and this other place. They are leaving the country every day. Yet, when I told my mom I wanted to become a teacher after my first degree, she laughed at me and she said, Mr. Felix, you are out of your mind. You know where we come from. People have to really work hard and they have to make money. You cannot be joining the teaching profession. I said, Mom, I'll make it. I'll make you proud. And up to this day, I think my mommy is so happy. But then it is because of school leadership. It is my first director that channeled the direction to this so that I can be able to do what it is that I'm doing. You too, a teacher who is in this forum, can make that difference. Again, I'm coming back to teachers and I'm saying, one, please, school heads, from the heart of a teacher, it is that when you cultivate a supportive, collaborative school culture with a strong leadership, that we can actually stay within the school that you've given us. Doesn't matter, it could be the government, the TSC. It is the supportive, collaborative school culture that will keep us with you. And I say that with a lot of emphasis because I have been in a school, I have been in a community of us. I mean, like I call it a community because that's my community as well, where when a teacher makes a mistake, you know, they are told you're going to get a memo. Of course, Miss Christine gives us memos and many other school leaders give us memos. But it is after we have been shown the way back and forth. It is when I've been given a mentor to work with. That is what has helped me to retain my role at my current school and many other schools that we continue to support. Number two, apart from the cultivating a supportive, collaborative school culture, the second thing is about PD opportunities. Some people call them PL opportunities, professional learning, professional development opportunities that are not generic. You know, Mohat said that there are opportunities where you can pay for the teachers, but there are opportunities where the teachers can actually go ahead and learn on their own, what we call open resources, where the teachers can learn and then they learn according to what they need in their classroom. I don't want to learn about differentiation. And right now, what the people are looking at is personalized learning. It is what the teacher needs. It should be the PD, must not be what Christine will say as the school head. It is based on what the teachers, and I love what Christine will do in our school, that she will actually ask us, what do you want to do? I like what I want to see, I'm not just talking about Christine, which is who is the head of school. Even the directors will come around and check out the teachers are doing and find out what are the PL opportunities, professional learning opportunities that they would like to do. Because if the teachers are the directors or the leaders or are the people who are guiding on what it is they want to do in the PL, then it is easier because it's what we call bottom-up approach. It's don't say anything because but you know, you can imagine the teachers are actually saying, I can do this course. Right now, I want to do a course called ISTE certification. It's the international ISTE, ISTE certification. And I want to do that because I'm an educational technology professional. Is the school willing to pay for that? Or can the school have a plan with me to pay for me all the years and I can compensate over time? Those are the things that we are asking for. The school leadership can play a big role. Any school leadership that considers professional learning, but ask the teacher first on what they want to do, including with surveys and, you know, opportunities to ask them what they want to do. It's going to be going in the right direction. Number three, I'm looking at competitive compensation. And let me say this with a lot of disclaimers. Competitive compensation is not about the amount of money the teachers will be given or the school will be giving. It's not what the teachers ask. It is not what the teachers will be given. It's a question of, I have signed a contract, but this contract is between my employer and myself, the employee and the employer. It's not a question of, you know, I want to be paid 10 million. It's a question of what are we agreeing to do together for this period. Like, for example, let me quote Shadell International School again and say, The Delhi International School is an upcoming international school that has cutting-edge technologies and teaching approaches and amazing teachers. But then, when we sit down to discuss about our salaries will be, based on the market rate, but also based on the stage of the school. If the teachers feel they want to be part of the journey to grow with the school, then it doesn't matter how much they are paid. It is how they have agreed with the director and the school head. That is what we are talking about. It is not where you are told, here is the salary scale, and you have to live. It's about that discussion we are having because we are. I want to speak of an example at Crawford International School. That's where I also did my teaching, and the school was starting in 2018, and I had to agree with the commitment that I was given at that moment, and it will continue to grow, maybe with 10% or 2%, sometimes 5%. That conversation is a conversational thing. It's not. This is what we offer. Take it or leave it. No. It must be something that we discuss about because I am offering a solution to you and you're offering solution to me and we are all having mutual benefit. As I come to the end, I would like to say teacher well-being must be prioritized. If a school is to retain its teachers, teacher well-being is not a question of attending training. It's about what do you check on me? Sometimes from time to time, Christine, over the weekend, does the director reach out to you to check how you are doing? Because that is what we are calling prioritizing teacher well-being and recognizing, the contributions. These things that we take a photo of a teacher and we share on social media and say, we are grateful for having Mr. James and Miss in our school. On our website, just recognizing and saying, oh, by the way, Victoria Mweni has been doing very well in our school and she contributed in this and that in the results that we have seen in this particular. That is what I'm talking about. Teacher well-being, recognizing the simple contributions. Every Friday having some sort of a celebration of someone who has done something, or even having teacher board where we actually name people and not pretend shares, the one that people pretend. You know how we do it in our staff room. Sometimes they're not even serious, but we can change that if we have the right approach. Thank you very much. I'm not talking about my school. I'm talking about all where we go. Thank you very much. Thank you, Daktari.
Thank you so much, Felix. Thank you so much. Christine, I saw you nodding in agreement. Would you want to maybe share some good practice with respect to the theme on retention and recruitment, at least for very few seconds?
Allow me to first agree in totality with Bona Felix that all the key points that he has given us when it comes to talent acquisition and teacher retention, they are key. And this is something that needs to be replicated from one school to the other school. I was just reading the charts and I happened to stumble upon a chart of a guy who was saying that in 3 years, they have not had any training. The only trainings that happen for the leaders or happen to the leaders. And in my head, I'm asking myself, so why train the leaders and fail to train the trainers of trainers, the trainers of the children? I think training should be prioritized for the teachers, the ones who are imparting knowledge to the little ones that we are bringing up at whatever level. I know very many schools have embraced this kind of training very, very well. But I want to speak to leaders out there, fellow leaders out there. If you're not training your teachers, if you're not empowering them, if all you do is give them a salary, then you are looking at losing teachers because there are other schools out there that are offering very good courses, including the PGCI. Actually, as I was leaving my former school, I had just nominated one teacher to do the PGCI at Braeburn schools. And you can imagine this teacher has agreed on a contract that she will stay there for 6 years. She will not leave that school. Can you imagine the amount of goodness, the amount of the number of children she's going to produce? And she's an excellent teacher. For her to be chosen out of many, it means she does a good job. So it's really important for all leaders out there to focus on teacher retention, talent acquisition as much as possible. At the same time, lastly, Mr. Felix talked about teacher wellness, teacher well-being. Insurance covers, medical covers, something as simple as a medical cover. And in the medical cover, there are key aspects that need to be looked at. Allow me to be selfish and just talk about women. Maternity cover, something that is mostly overlooked by many leaders in school. It is very costly. especially in the world we are living in today, to deliver a child. And you'll find those institutions that cater for such things, like it or not, you will notice there will be pregnant women. That's a plus, like it or not. Even though if it happens so regularly, at times we start questioning ourselves, are we too fertile? But the good thing is we know that teachers are well taken care of. Right now, many people are going through mental breakdowns, having counseling services within the insurance cover. So allow me to just talk about those two, Mr. Nicodemus, but I can talk about so many other things. When it comes to teacher retention and talent acquisition, there are so many things as leaders we can do out there. Something as simple as recognition, like Felix said, just having a little image of a teacher saying this is our teacher of the week. Simple, simple things that we can do to retain our teachers. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Felix and Kristen. I don't want to spend so much time on that theme. Allow me to move forward to a different thematic area, focus area for the session. And this relates to the contemporary or emerging trends in our industry. And of course, the elephant in the room is technology, the digital technology. We are living in the digital age. A few weeks, I think a few days ago, I saw a robot doing, serving people in a restaurant in Kenya. And that is where we are. It is no surprise that even in classrooms, already we are having robots in the classroom, right? So, and of course, I don't want this to be so much bent on the issue to do with robots, but I'm generally talking about the place of technology in our current space as educational practitioners. So, Felix, I think we'll start with Felix, and then Christine will come in later. So, what are the issues surrounding this emerging topic in our sphere of influence as educators, and how do we tackle such challenges? So you could speak about the benefits, right? And also the downside to technology in education.
Thank you very much, Daktari. I'd like to say, first of all, it doesn't matter because it is not even emerging. Let me tell you. You don't remember the old times when people are writing with feathers? That was their technology. Then there came pencils, graphite. Then it became a technology. Then there was biro pens. Do you remember the pens that you're using in 2000? Oh, Daktari, were you born in 2000, by the way? In 2000, people are just putting ink, and then the entire book will be full of ink if you mess up, And I'm talking about 1995, by the way, not 2000, 1995, when I was in class. I'm kidding. All right. So that has been technology all these years. And someone mentioned recently that the 21st century skill that we keep talking about, the 3 C's, I also add mine: critical thinking, communication. Sometimes people in CBC say citizenship, collaboration. I had another one called connection, because a teacher who does not connect with the learners will learn nothing. So you must connect with the learners. Having said that, the trends continue to emerge, but also they come with their challenges. Let me start by talking about tech as you had guided. And in this sphere, we call it educational technology. Now, many people, like the proverbial story of the elephant, confuse edtech with technology integration, with computer science, with ICT, with digital literacy, with digital citizenship, because this thing is big. But simply said, the benefits of technology in education start with the first thing: personalized learning. Notice what I've said, the last thing: learning. The question has always been, is learning happening? And technology can be anything, including blackboard chalk, including mark pens. I'm serious about this, by the way, because I many think people think when you're using PowerPoint, you're using technology. Well, you are, but probably because of the version that you are of a teacher, you're also part of the advanced technology. I'm not trying to say the teachers of all from my class 1 teacher in 1995 it's not tech. I'm just saying My question has always been, the question is learning. If learning is not happening, even if you are a robot, even if you have Ugali as your technology, whatever it is, we must ask ourselves, is learning happening? So the first thing I said is personalized learning. And I say personalized learning not because of AI has been telling us a lot about that, but it's just supporting what we have always been calling differentiation. You have a question of fractions, similar, what do we call them? Denominators. And you want to say 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2 equals 1 or 2 over 2, which is 1, a whole. Or 1 over 3 plus 1 over 3 is equals to 2 over what? Is it 2 over 3 or 2 over 6? I can't remember because I'm a math teacher. But what I'm trying to say is that if a child is struggling with that area, you can come up with different worksheets if you use technology. And I'm talking about AI here. I'm talking about Claude AI. I'm talking about Gemini. I'm talking about Notebook now, which is the biggest thing at the moment from Google. You know, I'm talking about GPTs, whatever GPT you use, whether it's Chat or Smile GPT. All those technologies must help you to personalize learning for every child, because every child learns at their own pace and with their own learning style. So it doesn't matter how long they will take, but they will learn. Is learning happening? Yes. So technology must help you, will help you to personalize that. Number 2 is inclusion. Children with the disabilities will need support, and technology provides that avenue for them to look into that. But sometimes the question is, there is this innovative teacher, and let me say that innovative teacher is the one, not the one who uses technology, is the one who has the good ideas, because some teachers are just trying things, and then we say they are innovative. Well, everyone is innovative in their own way. I'm just trying to say it is not a question of the teacher who is innovative. It's a question of every teacher believing in themselves and knowing that they are using technology to reduce their workload, to scaffold for every lesson and each and everything that we are looking at. The other thing I can talk about technology is in the stages of planning your lesson. And I'm not talking about lesson plans. I'm talking about lesson design, where you think you are teaching about photosynthesis, a teacher used to say, or you are teaching about vertebral column, where at the back, we talk about the occipital condyles, which join, okay, I know I'm going the world of biology, where we talk about the atlas and the axis, the yes and no join. If you are teaching such a subject, you want to look at what can you use. If you're teaching about light in physics and sunbeams, maybe you can take a photo of the light, of the beam at the sun sets. I keep saying that example because I learned from a teacher from this community. You take a light beam as the sun sets and teach children about beam. It is about bringing the simplest concepts, bring the complex topics in a simplified way to the learners in the classroom. And so that way, technology can help you with that. But it doesn't matter. It is not about the teacher who is innovative. It's about every teacher trying to get their student to learn. So technology is there and it's threatening in the way people think, but it's actually very subtle. It is just saying, I am here. If you want to use me, so that you can make your work easier. Challenges with that come in the way that we don't have enough devices. We are implementing a program called Code Clubs in Kenya, and we are looking at, that is STEAMLabs Africa, we are looking at teachers who have devices in their school. Some teachers tell me the devices are there, but the head teacher has locked them in his office. School leaders, you are to open doors for the teachers to use those resources. We only learn by trying, and we make mistakes, we break one, we still have 29. If they were 30, we can still continue supporting our life. So the devices are an issue, and I am telling you, you can improvise. You can come up with your own app. No, your own device. I'm trying to say you can use even your phone as long as it's helping you to achieve your goals. Because at the end of the day, learning must happen. That is the challenge number one, devices. Number two, the digital divide. Some teachers feel they are not confident. And I'm telling you, yes, that's why we exist as STEAMLabs Africa. That's why we exist as Educators Network, to build capacity for one another. If you know a teacher that is grappling with those things, we are still offering our sessions every 2 weeks. And this is free because it's a community of practice. Please encourage members of the community where you come from to join our communities, and let's grow together in that area. I'm just calling it digital divide. But I'm just saying that teachers who are not confident in that, and I'm saying let's help them by joining this community. And it is free. Nobody's charging you. All you need to do is be part of a community. And by the way, if you are from Kenya, you know we join WhatsApp groups without even asking. We don't even take privacy. We join. You can even join Illuminati one. So let them join the right ones, not the Illuminati ones. The last thing is about resistance to change. And you know what? That is an attitude thing. And God will help us with. We shall be fine. Other emerging trends include social emotional learning, which we need to look into, which is about looking at well-being for learners and for the teachers. And finally, supporting teachers as school heads to train this area. And if you are school head and you are here, we have free training here. You don't need the teachers, you don't need to charge. You don't need to create a Wednesday for training. They can join our community of practice for free, and we'll train them for free every 2 weeks on EdTech, on social well-being, on school leadership, on every aspect that there is. And we'll also help them find greener pastures if you are tired of them. I'm kidding. Thank you.
Okay, Felix, thank you so much. Christine, please take the microphone.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Felix. I think Mr. Felix has said most of what I wanted to say about the key trends, but allow me to add on a little bit on the points that he has shared with us. I want to first talk about the point on personalized learning. Now, how can personalized learning also be improved in a classroom situation? We have different types of learners. We know we have the kinesthetic, the audio ones, the visual ones, right? So as a teacher or as a leader, I think it's always very important for me to be cognizant of the fact that in any learning environment, my teachers or the teachers are aware that they have all these types of learners. And so the question I have is, are they taken care of? Have we taken care of the visuals? Have you taken care of the kinesthetics? Have we taken care of the audio? Mr. Felix talked about planning. It is in planning that you will be able to take care of all these types of learners. Apart from that, allow me to also talk about children who have language barriers. I know one of the things that works very well is allowing a learner to learn a language by immersion, where you put them amongst the rest of the children and they just learn how to speak it. If it is English, maybe like I know I have a Portuguese, purely Portuguese speaker who joined Shadell International School the other day. So how are we supporting his learning? One of the things that we're doing is we have an app that translates for him. This child is allowed to come to school with his tablet or maybe a phone or any device that can allow him to have a normal learning experience, because it's not like he's not a reader. He is a reader. But as a leader, how am I accommodative of children who come in with such needs? Again, something else that Shadell is also very keen on is what number of students what is the population? What is the highest number that a classroom can carry? It is known everywhere that Shadell has small class capacities. We cannot go beyond 18 students. But I know right now we are looking at international schools that go up to populations of 40 in a classroom. And so when the population is a bit overpopulated, I always ask myself, where does this personalized care come from? You have one teacher in a class. So leaders, it is important for us to also think about teacher-student ratio. Very, very important thing. Again, let me talk about another point, encouragement of teacher collaboration and open communication. Very, very important. I know there are parents who, allow me to talk about parents who have children with learning needs, learning disabilities, learning difficulties, and this will go hand in hand with inclusive learning. All right. It's very important for us as leaders to allow those parents to go through a process. We support them fully. Some parents are very resistant to getting specialists, occupational therapists to work with their children to support their learning, to even be able to produce an IEP report, individualized educational plan. Sit down with the parents, make them go through the process, introduce to them the occupational therapists, allow them to digest and just get to a point where they accept that this is who their children are, and encourage them. Tell them that one day the child will outgrow if intervention is done early. Also, not forgetting, decisions need to be made based on the data that is on the ground. The harsh reality that leaders need to face is the data that is on the ground says how they are performing, whether we like it or not. If things are burning down there, the problem could be us, the leaders. If things are not working out down there, we need to go back and ask ourselves, what is it that we are not doing right? What is it that we are doing wrong? I think that will be it. But also allow me to say, yes, Mr. Felix did talk about change, some of the challenges that we have, change also being one of the, human beings are very rigid. When it comes to change, any slight change that is introduced in a learning institution, it meets a lot of resistance. But I've come to realize that as a leader, it is not the change that is resisted. In most cases, it is how the change is brought or put down or put forward to the human beings or to the teachers. How do you introduce this change? Are you imposing? Are they a part of the process? And even if it means there are those changes that you will not have the teachers being part of the process, how are you doing it? Are the teachers well able to share in your vision? Allow me to talk about one of my mentors, Mr. Juma Nyamori, who is currently the principal at Rusinga International Schools. When the school was going through CIS accreditation, he was the one spearheading the process. And I can tell you for sure, those of us who were at Rusinga then, we did not feel like it was imposed on us. He led us so well that within, I think, 2 years, we had our accreditation. And the process was seamless. In our groups, we worked seamlessly. He made us understand the process. We were able to own it. He appreciated us. He worked with us. He offered guidance whenever guidance was needed. So as a leader, we need to be very keen on change and how we implement this change. Finally, resources. Is there an equitable distribution of resources in any organization? Mr. Felix did say that in most schools, there is a bias towards the math, English, and science resources. Allow me to say that my experience in most international schools is slightly different, because what I've seen is whenever there is any resource that is brought forward to a school, there's little to no bias on a subject. But if there are schools that do that, I tend to think that would be a disservice to the school, a disservice to the client, because resources need to be distributed evenly and dependent on the needs that are there in the school. I think that should be it.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Christine. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for question and answer, and I welcome you guys to ask questions or even, contribute to the conversation that's ongoing. So from the charts, I can see, let me start with what Tobias Obura is saying. Why not shatter the classroom walls? The opportunities for teachers, students, and parents would be truly limitless. I'm not sure whether that's a question or a comment, Tobias. Let me see if the questions are here. So Linda Joy, I can see you are asking a question. What about school leaders who downplay ideas brought forward by teachers who are young in the profession? That's a very, very, very important question. Does anyone from the house want to tackle that question? It doesn't have to be Christine and Felix. There's this challenge of ageism, and it is a big thing in many organizations. Ageism. No wonder the Gen Z have risen, and they're fighting the system. Yes, V-Blue. Take the microphone.
Okay, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. And I will just comment on age. And I will totally agree that when it comes to age, many young teachers, their ideas are not taken in. And they're also like, even the old teachers, it's like they look down upon them and they hardly even respect them. And remember, respect is a two-way traffic. The young respects the old and the old respects the young. So you'll hear comments like, hawa watoto wajuzi watatuambia nini, you know? So such comments demoralize them, and it inhibits their growth. it really puts them down and they feel like they are not accepted in the community. So I think it's important as leaders to just shun away with anything to do with age and to just say we are all like colleagues and we are here to help each other grow, because it is like generational, like, passing on the leadership. So if you move out, who is going to take up the next position? It is, of course, the young ones that you have mentored. So we all have to act like mentors to the young teachers and to encourage them to pull it up. As I was listening to Felix and Kristen, I was just thinking, what about, I would put myself in Christine's position, like she's a principal or she's a head teacher at Shadell. What about the director? Do they give you that space, to execute your role as a leader? Because you realize that you as a leader, you're really trying to make work environment conducive for all the stakeholders, but you have someone who is above you that you have to send your reports to. They're not supporting. They're not supporting your initiatives. They're not supporting your ideas. They're not supporting, whenever you request for resources. How do you handle that, you as a leader?
Miss V, allow me to respond.
Yes, please.
I have, in our governing body, I have 2 members, the chairman of the board and the managing director, who are constantly with us in the Shadell International Schools. One of the things that I totally appreciate about Miss Stella, who is our MD, and Dr. Yumbia, who is our chairman, is one, they are respecters of professionals. And so they have entrusted me and the head of the kindergarten with the work of running the institution in our sections. They even get very categorical with the parents, and they will tell them, and they will constantly remind them, any issues arising, go first to the head of section. If the head of section does not give a satisfactory answer, she will know what to do. She knows the protocol to follow. So lucky, allow me to say, I am lucky. I have I have allow me to call them my bosses. They are very receptive and they are very respectful. And whenever there is a need for report, of course, that is an expectation, I know exactly what to do. I have found working with them being very seamless. I also know, remember I talked about knowing how far your role and how far your responsibility ends. There are some decisions that they have to respect what the decision I have made about such, especially with the core run-ins of the school. But there are other decisions that I personally, intrinsically, I just know that this is not a decision for me, Christine, to make. This is a decision for MD to make together with the chairman. You understand? I think for me, it's easier. I just took my time and learned my bosses. I got to understand what is it that they would want me to do. I allowed myself time to get to understand how they think. I also keep myself professionally available to them. So one of the things that I have also experienced in person is what you're talking about. But this time round, it wasn't age. For me, I think it was racial discrimination. Let's start from there. And also having a leader, the key leader, not someone in the board, but my principal, was of a different race, and I think he felt intimidated by women who are professional. What I taught myself, and maybe also my training at Rusinga taught me, is that there are 2 types of leaders. There's a relational leader and there's a transactional leader, all right? So once I had ingested that and I got to know the type of leader that I am, it made it easy for me to coexist with the principal, who was very transactional, while on the other hand, I am a relational. So whenever you get to understand the type of leader or the person that is working with you, I think leaders should not be very mechanical. We should also be real with ourselves so that the people who are under us are able to understand how to work with us, okay? So when I got to understand the type of leader I am around, it made it easy for me to make decisions. It made it easy for me to choose my words. It made it easy for me to exist or coexist with him for about 2 years. It can be a bit frustrating, but with life, you just have to learn to live. You see, it's about the protocol and the leadership tire. So whenever it comes to matters leadership, you just need to know how far can you go. Don't test it. There's a point where you can go and you notice, okay, I think I can't go beyond here. Just know your place wherever you work. If you know this is the type of leader you have to somehow conform to that type of life, hoping that things will get better when you move on to the next institution. That's just my piece, my 2 cents.
Thank you so much, Christine. I hope, Diblu, you've benefited greatly from Christine's powerful responses. There was actually a question for you, Christine, before I give Zachary Mwasi and Tobias Obura a chance to speak. Someone wanted a clarification with respect to the difference between transactional leadership style and relational leadership style. I tend to imagine that transactional leadership style is the one that is based on the carrot and stick methods. I teach politics, so I will talk so much about the carrot and stick methodology. Yes, Kristen, just very briefly, the difference between those two styles.
Allow me to just simplify it in as the simplest way possible. A transactional leader is out for results. They don't care about the processes. They don't care about what you're going through, all right? They are looking for results. The end game is what is most important for them. But a relational leader, on the other hand, you see it's rela and shol. So there's relationship in there. This is a person who, in most cases, has a very humane touch to what they do. This is a person who you will approach. They're very approachable. And as much as they're also looking for the end game, the process for them is also very important. How do we get to the end game? What are some of the challenges? While a transactional one will tell you, you've had those bosses who will come and tell you something at 8 p.m. You see it on a WhatsApp message. Tomorrow, I need this on the table. And in your head, you're like, it's 8 p.m., guys. I'm in my house. How will I even meet that deadline? And those guys are very serious about it. I've come across so many of them. And at times they can be very unrealistic, but in many times they are realistic. Those guys are movers, allow me to say that. Transactional leaders are movers because they get the results, all right? And they get the results very fast. Meanwhile, a relational leader will also get the results. But as I said, the process of getting the results is very, very important for them. They need to know, is everything working for you? They'll constantly ask you the questions. Do you need my support? How far have you gone with this? If for example, it's a report writing process, they will come and they will give the deadlines, all right? And they will come and ask you if there's any challenges or you come across any challenge, just speak out so that we can know how to support you. So for us, it's the relationships that really matter. But at the end of the day, we are also looking for the results. The transactional ones, they're looking for the end results. They don't care about the relationships.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Christian. That is very succinct. Now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome Zachary to ask your question or also contribute to the conversation.
Thank you for the opportunity. Bwana Mohati, Christine, and Felix, very happy to be here. And I relate to what is being discussed. Now, I just wanted to add my voice on these two issues about ageism and also leadership, and especially when you are faced by a leader who is not ready to kind of, give you your space, for example, so that you can show your ability and be able to perform. Well, I should have started by saying I am Nyange Moasia. You can also call me Zachary. I am an educator in one of the colleges, and I am not a principal, but I head a section where I have several other people working under me, and me having several also working that are my bosses. So in cases where I discover that I have, I want to just share my experience, what worked for me. Maybe someone may borrow, or maybe a leader may also notice that it is happening to them. So at one point, I had one of my bosses who was not ready to, consider what I'm going through as I perform. So they were transactional as a Christine is sharing. So what I used to do, one thing was to make sure that even when we happen to agree anything verbally, I have it written, no matter how simple or small it is. I have it, on record, either email, WhatsApp, or whichever means, but it is written, so that in case we happen to have an issue another time, then we may have an arbitrator between us who would maybe help us out and confirm that at least this person told you that this and that may not work because of this and that reason. So they express themselves, and this is the evidence. So there may be a chance for me to be listened as much as I may be the junior. So that worked for me as I was waiting for a transition, so that this person would also maybe get a junior pasture and go, and I get a better boss, or even me myself become get to the top. Now, the second issue of ageism, I always encourage that leaders to encourage their people to practice professionalism all through, so that whenever someone is being brought down, they are brought down out of reasoning, not out of any other thing, not because
Mm.
of how young one is, not of because of how one age is, not of because of one where lives, but when we practice professionalism, all those shall be sorted. And hizi vitu za, my son, my daughter, dear, darling, mother, husband, blah, you get them out of work completely. So that no matter how young one may be, even if they are the age of my son, I need to relate with them with the highest professionalism possible. And with that, then it will help curb the issue of ageism and any other that may rise, and especially in respect to when someone is bringing you down out of just no good reasoning. Otherwise, I would also want to pose the third thing away from the two, the issue to do with persons with disabilities and assistive technologies. Now, I would wish to get the voice, and especially from Christine, in regard to assistive technology, when in an institution where um, the persons with disabilities are few, and yet the kind of technology they require is costly compared to what would have helped maybe 10, 15, or 30 learners in the school. So how do you go about convincing that boss that this will serve, yes, two children, but it will really mean their life? Thank you. Oh, sorry, I should have also mentioned that I am a person with visual impairment myself, totally blind, but it doesn't define me. Um, Yes, I only remain impaired, but with technology, I am always. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Nicodemus, allow me to respond. One of the key things that we look at the point of admission is the school able to cater for the needs of this child, especially with learning difficulties, learning disabilities, okay? That usually forms the basis of our admission process. And so even before we accept that we are going to have this learner to be amongst us, and note in most cases, many schools will fail to discriminate, or they will advise a parent that we do not have the assistive technology, as you called it. We do not have the assistive technology to cater for your son or your daughter's needs, and so maybe you can give a referral to a different school. But if it happens that you have admitted this child and the school is in a position to assist. You've talked about a device being very expensive. I think at this point now, you need to involve the parent, especially if it is a device that this child will require for a lifetime. Can I give an example? Maybe a braille machine, all right? That I know I might be old school, but I think that is something that is used by the blind to assist them with their reading, right? So at this point, you can involve a parent and ask them to go an extra mile and support by purchasing the technology. Another scenario that is also presented to us, remember children with learning disabilities, ADHD, autism, and all the others, the spectrum disorders. These children need to go through an assessment, and that assessment is not sponsored by the school. So it is the parent who has to carry this burden of paying for the assessment to be done. And so I know many schools will work hand in hand or are expected to work hand in hand with parents to find the best solution to make life as comfortable as possible. Now, just recently, I was heading a primary school where there's a young man who suffers from osteogenesis imperfecta. And the school has accommodated the young man. That's a physical disability. Those of you who know it, brittle bones. The school accommodated the young man. His sitting position was always next to the teacher. He didn't have time to go out to play because, of course, it will be too dangerous or too exposing. But then now came the time when he needed to go to secondary. Now, in this institution, the secondary is on the upper block. And remember, we do not have a ramp. The school did not have a ramp. So I wrote an email to the principal and I advised him in advance that we have this young man, this is what he suffers from, because at times he will need to work with support. And so I strongly suggested that one of the classrooms downstairs be used for his learning purposes. I think that was very straightforward. This academic year, I was informed that that decision was made and his classroom was brought downstairs. So I tend to think it's just collaboration between parent and the school. And in most cases, you'll find any child who has learning difficulties, learning disabilities, if the teacher, because remember, the eyes start from the teacher. The teacher will give you solutions because they've seen it all. They've had an experience of a whole year and they know, they'll tell you what works best for this child and what doesn't work best for this child. And maybe there's somebody out there, an occupational therapist, who will also guide. Now, when these parties come together, life is always made very comfortable for such a learner. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine. Allow me to give the final speaker a chance, Tobias, in just about 3 minutes, Tobias, and then I want to wind up the session.
Thank you, Dr. and thank you everyone who is in this call for the wonderful conversations that we are having. I want to agree a lot with what Christine had said earlier, and also appreciate Zachary's points. So I'm not going to add to that. The only thing I wanted to address was the questions about age and about colleagues who are older in the profession, not giving a chance to the younger ones, so to speak. My advice would be, from picking from what Christine had said earlier, once you have understood the type of leader you are, you also understand the kind of environment you are, because there are certain schools that don't have a lot of financial muscle to be able to invest in every idea that comes up. It might not be because they don't want to give you a voice. So once you've realized that and you've understood your environment, there are things you can do. It's called your own sphere of influence, because there are certain things that might not require the school to allow you to do or to allocate resources. Before I came to back to Nairobi, I'm currently an assistant principal at a school in Parklands. I was in a school somewhere in Bungoma. And I remember when I went there, just, you know, the way you present yourself, I was immediately given the opportunity to become the chief exams officer and the GOS, so to speak. So at that point, the school didn't have anything else, but I had my laptop with me. So I used to do timetables on manila papers, and in pencil. So we would do that, and I thought, well, in this age and time, we could do something different. So you start thinking, how do we then create timetables for every classroom, something that can print very quickly, and because that was within my sphere of control, so I was able to come up with that solution. And those of you whom we are in the Educators Network, there's a time I did some short training on doing timetables with Excel. And those skills I actually learned while I was at that school in Bungoma, because I know Excel a bit, I know a bit of Google Sheets, but then how do you use what you have as your skill in your sphere of control to do something that but not require for your boss or your head teacher to give you a go ahead to do. So sometimes when you do that, you're growing your skill, and you're also showing that you're worth more than the school is willing to let you do. And just because of that, the timetables that I was able to create at that time is part of what I used in my interview for the current position that I am currently. And so some of those might feel like opportunities that are not there, you're not being given, you're not being listened to, but as long as you can do something within the little sphere of influence that you have in the organization, you will build your skill, and you're going to have one thing in your portfolio that is going to be in the next level. That's what I wanted to advise. Thank you, Dr. Ari.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Tobias, and all the contributors, Felix Malombe, and Christine, who have been our main panel and the principal panelists, and of course, members, for your patience in this session. Now, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this webinar. We do hope that you really learned. And of course, this was a great package for that the STEAMLabs Africa had prepared for teachers on World Teachers Day, because you're very special people on the planet. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. At this point, the meeting is hereby called off. Ladies and gentlemen, you may leave at your own pleasure. Thank you so much. See you when you see me. Thank you.